Here in Texas, they'll take it. They can fill those forms out 3 times faster than we can. They know exactly what everything's got to be done. You just tell them what you want. They fill it out for you. And it's with a smile on their face. And we're talking about the weather and fishing and everything in between. And it's just a completely different lifestyle. And the people are so helpful here. And it's unbelievable. But it's hard for people coming out of other states to realize how easy and how friendly the people are. And these people, they're here to help you.
Welcome to Gone to Texas, the official podcast of the Texas Economic Development Connection. On every episode, we share the stories of business owners and CEOs who have relocated or expanded their business into Texas. Our goal is to use these stories as a guide to help others who are ready to hang a sign on the door that says, Gone to Texas. And now, please welcome your host, the Managing Partner and Chief Inspiration Officer for Day One Experts, Super Dave Quinn.
Howdy, friends, and welcome to another episode of Gone to Texas, a podcast powered by Day One Experts. I'm your host, Super Dave Quinn, and today we have a very special guest, Mr. Dobyns, Gary, who founded Dobyns Rods, which offers a full line of rods across 14 different series, from the affordable Colt series all the way to the super refined Ecstasy series. Now, I can tell you my son is super excited about this. He's going to be stoked when this comes out because he loves to fish, and the fact that I'm talking to someone who actually manufactures the equipment, he's going to be wowed by that. So, Gary, welcome to the show, and thank you for putting me up on my son's, cool factor for my son. Thank you for being on with us today.
I appreciate it, Dave. I'm happy to be here.
So, let's give people a little bit of your background, kind of set the table, if you will, and tell a bit of your story, how you got into fishing rod manufacturing, and sort of how you got to where you are right now.
Well, I fished my first tournament at 23 years old. I'd always fished my whole entire life, but never no competition or anything. And I love to compete in just about anything. I don't care if it's checkers, I love to compete. And the fact that I could fish and compete, it was just, I got hooked so quick. It was just unbelievable. And I went out like killing snakes, and I just fell in love with the sport. And it took me several years, about 3 years, before I kind of calmed down and kind of hit my stride and got some techniques dialed in that really worked for me. Learned some of the bodies of water a little bit. And honestly, I've become a very successful tournament fisherman, predominantly in the West. And from there, I always tweak with baits. Fishermen love to tweak stuff. They're going to take a bait and they got to make their own changes to it. The same thing. Well, I started doing that with rods. A good buddy of mine, Lynn Williams, who owns Williams Custom Rods. we was like mad scientists making rods and stuff. And Lynn is just an absolutely awesome buddy of mine to this day. And, I worked with a lot of different rod companies over the years, and I finally started my own. This is our 19th year. And it's awesome. I should have did it earlier, but fishing it changed my whole life. I have a high school education, never went to school, got married young, put my wife through school, and I went to work. And just very fortunate, very blessed to be a good fisherman and have some, I don't even know how I do some of the stuff, just the insight on making stuff. I'm really crazy about angles on hook points, and, I'm really, really picky about rods and my baits. My baits got to be tuned perfectly, and it just kind of just evolved. It's not nothing I ever set out to do, and I will tell you, it exceeded my expectations, my wildest expectations, by 100-fold.
So where did you start actually doing your manufacturing? Did you start that when you lived? You're from Northern California. Is that where you started the process of making rods, or?
Yeah, we did. It started off with, building with other people's blanks and stuff before I started a rod company, working with Lynn Williams. And, but yeah, I was in Yuba City, California. I lived there until I was 58 years old. I lived in that area, in the Yuba Sutter area, until I was 58. And we absolutely outgrew our warehouse there. And about 7 years ago, and I moved to Texas.
Wow. Okay. So tell me a little bit about that, because had you been in Texas before? Had you experienced, or if you never lived here, what was that sort of mentality like of, hey, we got to go somewhere, and Texas is on that list? What does that look like?
It was a pretty easy decision, honestly, for me. We outgrew our warehouse in California, And when I went to build a new one, a bigger one, I've come out of a 6,800 square foot warehouse, and I needed a bigger warehouse. And it was just, I'll be honest with you, I mean, it was too expensive to build there. I mean, that's just all there is to it. And I'd always wanted to get to Texas because it's more business friendly. No state income tax is obviously a huge deal. Very cheap workman's comp, which is not even required in the state of Texas, but it's so cheap you'd be a fool not to do it, even though we never have injuries because we stick rods in tube. But what put me in the Sulphur Springs area is Lake Fork. I mean, We'd done several TV shows on Lake Fork. I'd fished Lake Fork quite a bit as a fisherman. It was always like the destination I always wanted to fish was Lake Fork. I mean, when I was asked that 20 years ago, and I'm doing seminars, where would you like to fish? I always said Lake Fork. Never been there, never seen it, but I wanted to. And I got the opportunity to fish it a bunch. I got invited to do a full television series on Lake Fork called Big Bass Battles. We did it with a bunch of buddies. It was absolutely a blast. And I fell in love with the people in this area. That's really what drew me to Texas is the people. Everybody is so friendly. Everybody's so helpful. It's so different. And you walk into a restaurant and there's not a place to sit down. More often than not, someone is going to invite you to come sit down and eat breakfast or dinner with them. And it's just the people. The people is what put me in this area. And when I was moving out of Northern California, I knew that I was going to live somewhere within an hour around Lake Fork. And it's the only place I looked. And it was Sulphur Springs was just an awesome place. I mean, it was a small city, 16,500 people, but it's pretty much got everything I need. And also, we've got big cities 30 minutes either direction of us. It's just an absolutely ideal location for us.
Yeah. Well, so that's another reason I was excited to do this. So Chris Brown out in Sulphur Springs, who runs the economic development out there's a good friend. And I was actually born and raised out in Hopkins County. I grew up fishing Lake Fork. I will tell you, I kind of took that for granted, right? Like when you grow up in East Texas, Northeast Texas, there's lakes for everything. You got a lake for fishing, a lake for just hanging out on, a lake for boating, skiing and stuff. In Lake Fork, we used to spend weekends out there. We'd leave Friday after school, and as long as we were back to church on Sunday, they really didn't care. We were on Lake Fork, and I think that's crazy. But when I saw that you were coming on, I was going to ask. One of the questions that someone sent me was, hey, find out where's best, what lake would you like to fish on? And how awesome is that it's Lake Fork? I've got a lot of good friends now back that I'm excited to share this with because they're going to, hear Lake Fork and know where that is. And so it's kind of cool to shine a light on somewhere where I grew up.
Yeah, Lake Fork's a destination.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a destination. If you're into fishing, I mean, it's a destination. And, they bring all the big tournament events. They stop here. But what people don't realize is a fisherman is for the big lakes like Toledo and Sam Rayburn and Lake Fork. There's 50 smaller lakes between them that is just as good. I mean, and they don't get the pressure and they don't get the notoriety. And so you're out there fishing. It's awesome. I mean, if you're a fisherman, East Texas is a great place to be.
Well, I always say when I grew up there, we fished every lake we could fish, and then we fished a few ponds we weren't supposed to fish, right? Like we snuck into a few places, but that's where the fish were, so we had to go. So tell us a little bit about, you're a professional fisherman. You don't have, you're obviously not educated for running a business, right? Like you have an high school education. What was that transition like when you began to, manufacture and create your own product? How hard was that transition?
It really wasn't hard. As a fisherman, and I'd been fishing for tournament fishing for a long time, built rods for a long time. I knew exactly what I wanted to build. So that part was easy. As far as running the business, obviously, I don't have business experience, although I did work retail for a couple of years very early in my life, 19, 20 years old. And I went through a management training program. So I kind of understand what the stores are looking for as far as, space on gondolas and stuff like that. That's a little bit of a help. But I tell you, honest to gosh, Dave, I looked at business, the forgotten thing with business in any kind of business is customer service. And I'll tell you, I build really good stuff. I use Torrey materials, which is #1 in the world. So, the product is awesome. I'm super, super picky. Super, super picky about my product. And even my cheap line of Colts, my cheaper line of Colts, which are developed for the big box accounts like Dick's and Academy and so forth.
Right.
But they all balance out. They all still fish good. They all balance out good because that's just one of my pet peeves. So the product is, I think I get A marks across the board for quality of product. And customer service is something that I'm just crazy about. We answer our telephones. There's no automated phone systems. I hate automated phone systems. So why would I put my customers through that? So we answer our phones. We're very good about rod recommendations. Anyone can call in, and we've got a bunch of fishermen in there, and we can tell them exactly what rod they need. We might ask them a few questions about line size, where do you live, how you fish, and so forth, and we can dial them right in. But the customer service part of the business, we got A plus marks there too. So product was an A, customer service was an A, marketing D minus. D minus, no doubt about it. It's just, I'm not a big social media guy at all. Matter of fact, just
Right.
the opposite, which is a struggle in today's business. But I tell you, if you treat people right, you treat people good, you have really good customer service and good product, they talk. Fishermen love to fish and talk. And man, and so the advertising part of it, we just, everything we tried, we spent a lot of money at times on advertising, and we just didn't see a return. And we still do advertising to this day, but still, it's our customer service, the word of mouth advertising that can't be beat. And honestly, so I'm not a businessman, but if you build good stuff, you treat people right, you can make a good business.
Yeah, if you solve problems for people, it's funny how that works, right? People show up.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit about operating there in East Texas. So I get a lot of those questions because people just aren't familiar. Texas is so big, and there's all kinds of different regions, and so there's just a place for just about everything. And so when people are coming in from California, they really don't understand the lifestyle. They don't understand the resources, and sometimes they think, well, is there even enough people out there to fill my business from a manufacturing standpoint, from a workforce standpoint? So what's been your impression of, working with the people there in East Texas to build your product, and have you been able to make that work for you?
Yeah, I mean, the people is probably the easiest part. I mean, they're very easy to get along with. I took good care of my employees. I pay them well, retirement and, medical, I take care of that. And if you take care of your people, you just don't have the problems. And we went through some people, and it took us a while to get a good crew. But we've got a good crew, and what thing with Texas is like, I keep coming right back to it, the people. And I mean, that's just what makes it so great. And, working with the EDC in Sulphur Springs was kind of a weird way that happened, to be honest with you, because I knew I was coming here. I knew this is where I wanted to do the business. And there was a for sale sign on a lot that was right on Interstate 30. And had a for sale sign on it, and I had a realtor I was working with out here, and I told her I want to buy that piece of property. What's it listed at? And believe it or not, it was listed for $156,000, 10 acres, right on frontage of I-30. I just about had a stroke. You got to be kidding me. And so I told my real estate agent, I want you to buy that today, the full price. Let's get it done. And so I get a call from a guy named Roger Fegley, and bless his heart, the poor soul, he just passed away a few weeks ago.
Roger was a dear friend, and he's going to be missed. Yeah.
He is going to be missed. He was such a nice guy, and him and Glenda, they took great care of me. But Roger called me, and he says, what's this? You're trying to buy me a piece of property? I said, sir, I don't know who owns it. If you're the owner, yeah, I want to buy it. And he goes, well, you can't buy it. It's not for sale. I said, well, it's got a for sale sign on it. He goes, that's how I pull suckers in like you. That's
his fishing
hook. Phone calls. Yeah, I'm like, well, when you got a for sale sign, tell me I can't buy it? He goes, no. He goes, how big a building are you going to build? And at that time, I was going to build 15,000 square foot building. I ended up building a 30 in the end of it, but.
Right.
And he said, well, I can't give you 10 acres for a 15,000 square foot building, but I have 5 acres down the road I can give you. I said, sir, I don't want anybody to give me anything. I want to buy it, and I want to buy it today. And he goes, that don't work that way. And so then I got involved with the EDC, and I mean, great people. Like I said, Roger and Glenda just took great care of us. And I mean, I consider them really good friends, and they make business easy. And their whole deal with the EDC is recruit business in. And they didn't have to recruit me, I was coming. But they made it real easy. And they actually did give me the 5 acres that I put my building on.
That's awesome.
It's I'll never forget Roger.
Chris has done a great job stepping in and kind of building on what Roger did. And Roger was, of course, one of a kind in our industry and did funny things like this all the time. These stories come up, and people are like, how was he so successful? I'm like, he knew, he knows how to go fishing. He knew how to do it. But yeah, so Chris and Glenda, they're doing an incredibly good job at just helping people. Howdy, friend. Are you a business owner feeling stuck in your current location? We've got a message you need to hear. Today's episode of the Gone to Texas podcast is brought to you by the Sulphur Springs, Hopkins County Economic Development Corporation. Now imagine a place where your business can grow, your costs are lower, and your lifestyle just gets better. That's exactly what you'll find in Sulphur Springs, Texas. Situated in the heart of Northeast Texas, Sulphur Springs offers everything your business needs to thrive, without the headaches of your current location. Located on Interstate 30, halfway between Dallas and Texarkana, Sulphur Springs has easy access to major markets without the congestion and the red tape. Here, you'll find a community ready to support your business with affordable housing and skilled workforce and a vibrant, family-friendly lifestyle. Whether you're in the manufacturing or agriculture, Hopkins County offers endless opportunities. From 3,000 acres of parks to award-winning schools and healthcare, the quality of life here is second to none. Plus, you'll find the cost of doing business is a fraction of what you're paying now. Ready to leave your state's high cost of operation and red tape behind? Well, we don't blame you. Reach out to the Texas Economic Development Connection today and let our team help connect you to Chris Brown and the folks at Sulphur Springs Hopkins County Economic Development Corporation. Or visit us at gonetotexaspodcast.com/sponsors and discover how Sulphur Springs can make Texas work for you. I'm your host, Super Dave Quinn, saying thank you to Chris Brown and the folks out at the Sulphur Springs Hopkins County EDC for sponsoring this episode of Gone to Texas. Don't just dream about it, make the move to Texas. It's really not hard, right? Because I think I get this a lot when I talk to business owners who call us. You know, they go to the website, they fill out a form, and really they know they want to be in Texas. They know they just don't know how to get it all started, right? And so when I tell them, it's like, no, this is free service. We help you. It doesn't cost you anything. There's someone at the cities who generally want you to succeed and will do it for free. They can't believe that. They are so skeptical. And so we first have to get them over the belief that this is too good to be true. And I said, no, there's dozens of towns that will give you, whether it's property or, and it might not even be an incentive. It might be that you just start building, but they'll connect you with the resources you need as a business owner, right? Whether it's a local bank or an insurance company. And that's something that they don't believe. It's hard for them to understand that people generally, especially at the city level, want them to succeed and want to help them.
It's very odd, and I come out of Northern California. Okay, to get the permitting process and stuff is a nightmare, absolute nightmare. I mean, everything you deal with the city is a nightmare. Red tape, appointments, everything gets drug out for months and months. You can't get answers. It's an absolute nightmare. And so when they say that, we're going to make this easy and we're going to help you, you sit back and look like, yeah. I mean, I just really wonder if that's really true. And,
right.
But I'll be honest with you. I mean, they are awesome people. I mean, I've got Glenda's cell phone number. I mean, she's, I got Roger's cell phone number too, of course. And if I got a question, I mean, I fire a call in there, and I mean, 9 times out of 10 they answer it. If not, I mean, within 30 minutes or so, I've got a call back, and I've got the answer I needed. And it was like, it's when I say beyond super easy, it's beyond super easy. And they're actually glad to talk to you. Where I come from, those people, when you sit there and you go in and you try to get your permitting process or something, it's like you're interrupting their day. I mean, it just, scowl on their face, not friendly, and in Texas, gosh, it's so different. I mean, in California, like you walk into our Department of Motor Vehicles, I mean, you got to have everything filled out. And I mean, it's the biggest pain in the butt you've ever seen. I mean, hey, they treat you terrible. You're interrupting their day by showing up there to give them money for registration. Here in Texas, they'll take it. They can fill those forms out 3 times faster than we can. They know exactly what everything's got to be done. You just tell them what you want. They fill it out for you. And it's with a smile on their face. And we're talking about the weather and fishing and everything in between. And it's just a completely different lifestyle. And the people are so helpful here. And it's unbelievable. But it's hard for people coming out of other states to realize how easy and how friendly the people are. And I mean, these people, they're here to help you.
Now, Gary, do you also live here, or is it just your business here, or did you actually move too?
Oh no, I live here. I mean, I live here, and
okay.
I've been here for over 7 years. I mean, I make trips back to California because my grandkids are there. My
Sure.
wife makes a lot of trips back to California, but I mean, I make a number of them myself, and we always will until I can hopefully get my kids out of there. I'd love to just kidnap my grandkids. I mean, the kids could stay there. I just give us the grandkids.
Kids, whatever you want. Yeah. That's awesome.
But it's dude, it's just Texas. It's so hard to say. I mean, everybody goes, oh, they're slower. Well, that's not necessarily true. They just don't get excited. I mean, it's like, something bad happens. Like I talked to old boy yesterday, his tractor caught on fire, and he just paid it off 3 days ago. And it caught on fire, burned it up, and he's like, oh,
it happens.
Tractor caught on fire, it's just what it is, But another story is like I stopped, East Texas and cell service. I mean, sometimes we don't have the greatest reception in the world with cell towers. I stopped on a hilltop to talk to Joanne at Skeeter Boats one day, and I knew it was going to be a long conversation. So I sat there for 45 minutes, and I had 3 different trucks stop on this back road and said, "Hey, buddy, you need help?" I said, "No, I'm just talking on a cell phone, And oh, okay. But I mean, they stopped. If I'd have needed something, they'd have been right there. I mean, that's the way that people in Texas are.
I'm born and raised in Texas, born and raised in East Texas, right? It's good people, like you said. And it's so funny because I hear this all the time because I talk to business owners from all over the country, and they just don't believe me, And that's why it's so important when I have folks like you on to kind of help share, like, I'm not making this up. This really does happen. Because it's hard for them to believe, and they don't understand it. It's so foreign to them.
You're spoiled, Dave. You're spoiled.
Oh, for sure.
You're spoiled. I mean, you don't realize, like, I'm telling you, with business-wise, you've always got, permits and, all the crap, the insurance, all the stuff you got to go through, no matter what state you live in. But here, it's just so much easier, and honestly, it's a lot cheaper, too. Like I said, workman's comp is not even a requirement in Texas, but you'd be an idiot not to do it because it's so cheap. In California, it's outrageously expensive. It's a big business expense. In Texas, it's nothing, it's nothing.
We hear that a lot, right? We get a lot of calls from business owners who have seen a spike in orders, or they have a new innovation, or they have a new product launch, and they know that it's going to push the need for production, or they're going to have more people, and they're like, we're at a point where if we can't do this in California. It might not necessarily be California, but a lot of it is. We can't do it here, because if we do it here, it's going to cost me so much that it's not even worth doing. And we had a gentleman on the show not early on, and he had the same thing. He had some innovations and that kind of thing, and he's like, I needed to double in size, but I couldn't do that in California. I couldn't afford to do it in California. And he actually moved to East Texas and was able to tap into the engineering talent that's in and around that area, which really surprises people. And so, that is such a big part of it, is just the cost of operations. If you've got to that point where you need to take off and grow, you really can come to Texas. And even if you don't get any business incentives, if all you do is just move your existing operation and grow, you're gonna see a big improvement in your profitability. So I'm glad I'm glad you saw that as well.
Yeah, I mean, truthfully, Dave, California is a great state, especially up north. It's rural. It's farming. It's instead of cows and hay and everything like in Texas, and in Northern California, it's rice, walnuts, almonds, prunes, peaches. It's different. There's cows. We got cows and stuff too, but not to a fraction of what we got in Texas. But it's rural. But I tell you, when I moved the business to Texas, I knew the business was going to grow just simply by being out of the state of California. I got numerous phone calls. Hey, where y'all located? I just cringe, and I'd always say Northern California, and it'd be surprised how many times you'd go click. That conversation was over, And I knew without a doubt, moving to Texas alone, that I would double business. But in reality, Dave, I tripled business.
That's amazing.
When I moved to Texas.
That is so good to hear. Again, it's proof in the pudding, right? Like I'm paid to go out and share those kind of stories, and again, people don't necessarily believe. So when we have folks like you that come on and share that, it's I think gives people hope, right? Because who we target and who we help is the small business owner, and you're just trying to do right with your family. You've created a product you love in an industry that you love. You just want to create a good product, help other people, and create some joy in your life. And we believe in helping you do that here in Texas, right? We think that you should be successful. We don't think we should punish you or penalize you for coming up and working hard and creating a product that people love. So it really is good to have you on and to hear you share that.
The only regret I have, Dave, is that I didn't do it 20 years before. That's literally the only regret. That's my only regret right there.
Try not to look backwards, right? Let's look forward and begin. So, in all honesty, was there anything that you weren't expecting, or that you had to adjust to? Because that's our business owners. That's what they're really looking for. Is like, and I tell them it's not going to be perfect. We're not perfect. There's still going to be business trials and troubles. It's just you're doing it in an environment that is a lot friendlier to do it in than where you're coming from. And so, is there any advice or wisdom you might share with somebody who's thinking about making the move and sort of what they need to think about?
If I was going to say a negative, is Texas has this 2% inventory tax, which we did not have in California. That's a negative. But when you sit there and you figure out you got no state income tax, it doesn't matter. I mean, if you figure out, like they say, property taxes are higher in Texas, okay, maybe they are. I mean, honestly, I don't really see that, because property value is a lot different than what it is in California as well. I mean, I built my rod shop here for 1/6 the price it was going to cost me in California. 1/6.
Oh my goodness.
So I'm already way ahead of the game. And then you factor in no state income taxes, so if the property tax is a little bit higher, who cares? I mean, if you want to look at bottom line, you're going to come out way farther in the black. Way farther.
Love it.
There's just not a lot of negatives. I mean, I'll tell you the negatives of Texas. I'll tell you right now what the negative of Texas is. It's a little bug called a chigger, okay? That's a negative to Texas. That little bug called a chigger, man, I tell you, they must like this sweet California meat, because they sure like me.
Oh, if you've never, folks, if you've never had the pleasure of getting into chiggers, it's something you really should have at least once in a lifetime. Yeah. That's the negative to Texas right there. Oh man, well, Gary, thank you so much. This has been awesome. I have loved talking to you. My son is gonna, normally I come out, or not normally, sometimes I come out and actually do it in person. And obviously we set this up virtual, but he's going to be so mad that I didn't go and get some pictures of the operation. And because, he's super fascinated by how, it's not just fishing, it's how everything works, how everything's built, and just, it's so fun. But thank you for giving us a few minutes of your time today and sharing your story. We really appreciate it. We want to thank Chris at Sulphur Springs in Hopkins County and Glenda. Those folks are just good people, and they really are there to help you. And I'm glad that rings true with what your experience is. So thanks so much for being on here. Before I go, let's let people know where they can find your rods if they're not familiar with it. I can't imagine that, but if they're not, if you're a fisherman and they want to find you, where can they come find your product?
Dude, we're in a lot of the dealers. I mean, Dick's and Academy, they've got all the rods. The pro shops. If it's a pro shop, most of them have the rods. And
okay.
We're housed here in Sulphur Springs at 100 CMH Road in Sulphur Springs, and we don't advertise for walk-ins, but we get a lot of walk-ins. We don't turn anybody away. I mean, guys love to look. There's all the models there to look at. When you have 250 to actually probably closer to 275 models of rods, dealers can't stock all of those.
Right.
They stock the real popular movers, but we do drop ship programs. If they want a rod that the dealer doesn't have, they make one phone call and it's on its way to them.
Okay. Can they find you online? Is that if they want to order something online, are they able to do that?
Yes, just DobynsRods.com.
Okay.
DobynsRods.com, and you can buy right off the website. We're happy to do that, obviously. We refer other people to dealers, but we love to sell off our website. We love to have walk-ins.
Well, we'll drop that in the show links, and so people can find that. And then, of course, again, if you're in all the major stores, just look for Dobyns Rods, and they'll be able to find you, I guess. So
we're pretty easy to find.
All right. Well, hey, thanks, folks, for listening to another episode of Gone to Texas. As always, please like, share, and subscribe. That's how we get this information to others, and we'd love to have you do that. We know many business owners across the U.S. feel frustrated with their economic circumstances, and they're looking to the Lone Star State for opportunities, and that's what we do. We help those business owners find the right place in Texas to expand or relocate their business. And when this happens, we know that their business grows, and then Texas benefits. And so please visit TexasEDConnection.com today Set up a call and learn how we can help you move to Texas. I'm your host, Super Dave Quinn, saying bye for now, and until next time, make it a great day.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Gone to Texas, the official podcast of the Texas Economic Development Connection, powered by Day One Experts, a collection of the country's best-known economic development professionals offering on-demand services to communities across the nation.